Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the What's Up Webcast, where we take a look at everything from what's up in the nighttime sky to equipment to helpful tips and tricks. We do this every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here at the Skywatcher USA YouTube channel. And thanks for joining us. I also forgot to mention that on the last Friday of the month, we have a special guest on to talk about their specialty in the field of astronomy. All of these are generally live, but they are saved and recorded. You can go back anytime and check out any of the What's Up webcasts that we've ever done. For those of you who've been here with us for the entire ride, thank you. Thanks for being here with us. And for those who may be joining us for the first time, welcome, and thanks for spending your Friday or wherever you might be with us. So it is the first Friday of the month, which means we're checking out what's up in the nighttime sky. And we'll just jump right in it because we've got a fair amount of stuff we could take a look at. Okay, so first off, if you like what you see here at the Skywatcher USA YouTube channel, please leave us a like on a video. Maybe subscribe to the channel. Keeps you up to date with all the latest and greatest that's going on. If you have an idea for an episode, please email info@skywatcherusa.com. Title it What's Up and let us know your idea for an episode. With that being said, if you have emailed us before and you haven't seen your idea pop up, we have lots of stuff bouncing around and scheduling. So it does take time for us to schedule various episodes. So just because your idea, if you've thrown one in there, hasn't come up, don't worry. There's a lot of ideas floating out there. We need as many ideas as we can for episodes. Okay. Now, you can always jump over if you want to stay up to date with what's going on at Skywatcher to skywatcherusa.com. Go ahead and hit the subscribe and save button up at the top there, and that'll get you on our email list, which lets you know about what's going on for the month, weekly What's Up webcast episodes, and if there's any new product announcements, that's how we leak those out to everyone. So that's how we do that. Also, last thing real quick. If you're looking for something cool to go with your Skywatcher gear, we have Skywatcher swag, which is skywatcher.threadless.com. We have some new shirts up there with the EvoLux, various designs. There's all kinds of really cool things on the store. Shoes, pants, shirts. I mean, it's quite crazy how much stuff is here at the Threadless store. So if you're looking for something cool, you can go over there, get what you need. And it's a perfect match for your Skywatcher gear. So that is that. Now, let's get started with what's going on in the month of May. Now, first off, we're going to start with the brightest thing in the nighttime sky. That is the moon. We just had new moon this past weekend. Some of you out there might have been at the Texas Star Party or out at your favorite dark sky site. I know we had one of our representatives at Texas Star Party. For those of you who were there, hope you had a good time. But the next new moon for the month, well, technically that new moon was in April, but the new moon for May is on the 30th. So your dark sky weekend this month is going to be the 28th and the 29th. Plan accordingly if you haven't already. We are getting to Milky Way season at this point, so that summer Milky Way is starting to rise just before midnight. So if you're into nightscape photography, or if you got a Star Adventure, if you have a Star Adventure GTI on order maybe, but something like that, is now the time to get out to those dark sky sites where you can start getting the Milky Way rising, and especially as we push into summer. So keep an eye out for that. But your next chance to get out there is going to be the 28th and the 29th of this month. Now, the full moon of the month is May 15th. That's next weekend. This is the flower moon. The flower moon gets its name from the appearance of flowers during the month. It is spring, so there are probably a lot of us out there that will or have been seeing wildflowers everywhere. I know my sinuses have. So I'm sure you have seen plenty of those as well. Real quick, Daniel in the chat, you still owe us the Refractor vs. Reflector episode. It is in the schedule. It's coming up. I don't remember when. I think it's next month is when we're doing that one. But that one has been rescheduled and is coming up, so keep an eye out for that. Now, The full moon for this month is actually kind of special because we have a total lunar eclipse this month, at least here in the Americas, Europe, and some of Africa, pretty much anywhere that it's dark during the time. May 15th, which is next Sunday. Yes, next Sunday. We do have the total lunar eclipse. It is visible here in North America as well as South America, Africa, and Europe to varying degrees, and I'll show you guys that. Here in North America, it is very well placed. Most of us here in the United States are going to be able to see pretty much all of it to a good portion of the total eclipse. For us here on the West Coast, we're going to see it as it's moving into totality. We will be doing a live stream of this, which I believe will be handled through NASA as well. I meant to pull that up here. So let me pull this up here just so you guys can find where it's at. There we go. So, my outreach program Focus Astronomy, as well as AAA, which is a new group here in Arizona, the Astronomy Association of Arizona, as well as Lowell Observatory, and NASA, are all taking part in a live stream of the lunar eclipse that we will start for Focus Astronomy's live stream next Sunday. It will be 8 p.m. Pacific if you want to join us for that. Probably be using our big fat Esprit 150 to stream that, but you can join us for that as well. Anyway, but this is well placed, especially here in North America, because you're basically getting it as the sun is going down. So it's not like you have to stay up late to well, maybe on the East Coast you guys have to stay up later, but here on the west side of the United States, we're pretty much wrapped up before midnight on the eclipse, so it's convenient. But it's going to make for some really cool photo opportunities, especially for those that aren't here. I'll just show you the map because it'd be a lot easier to explain this with the map. Boop. This is timeanddate.com. They do a really nice job at doing things for eclipses. But here's the eclipse path. Everything in red is basically visible, and then there's various shades. Here's the key down here. Go full screen. There we go. So everything in red, the dark red portion, you're going to be able to see the entire thing. The thing I like about time and date is you can click pretty much anywhere you want on the map, wherever you live, and it will give you the full breakdown of eclipse times. Very, very convenient thing to use. But here on the West Coast, in the majority of the United States, we're going to get a really cool photo opportunity to actually watch the moon rise, a full moon rise, during totality, or moving into totality. So if you are an astrophotographer, a nightscape photographer, I would recommend finding some kind of hilltop or mountaintop or some kind of scenic overlook. If you're on the coast, maybe go to the beach. I don't know. I'm sorry. That doesn't make sense because the coast is on the west side and everything sets in the west and the moon's already on the east. So don't listen to me on that, but still find some like high overlook. And you can probably get some really cool pictures of the moon rising there. So there's some photo opportunities there besides just, of course, shooting the eclipse altogether. I believe our friend Nico Carver just did a very cool video about different tips for shooting the actual eclipse. You can go back and watch his video if you want to see some like DSLR stuff like that. So you can check that video out. But that is May 15th. This is timeanddate.com. Just look up the eclipse, figure out where you're going to be, and click all around the place and see where it's going to be visible for you. And good luck. We'd love to see some of your pictures if you shot it with some Skywatcher stuff. So that is the lunar eclipse on May 15th. So good luck for all those out there. Planets. Quite honestly, the evening sky is really quiet. All of our planets are gone. It looks a lot like this. Nothing. If you are a planet fiend, like some of my friends are, you are up in the early morning right now, my friend, because they're all in a nice line in the morning. You've got Jupiter, Saturn, I think Mars is hanging up there, Venus is out there. It's going to make for a really cool collection of planets as we start pushing into the summer. But currently there's nothing in the evening sky to really catch right now as far as planets go. So if you are interested in planets, you are up before dawn taking a look, or you're up really late. But early morning hours are the best time to get out and observe those planets right now. But it is a big collection of major visible planets that are hanging out up there right now. So like I said, if you're interested in planets, now's the time to be up in the morning taking a look at that. What I like to do, if you know you're going to get up early, is make sure your telescope is set up and just leave it outside. If the weather is going to be good, just leave it outside, because that means when you actually get outside, your telescope is already acclimated to the night and it's all cooled off and ready to go. And you probably get some of your most incredible views because your telescope is set up. And the early morning skies are very, very nice because the night has taken enough time where the ground is cooled off. I find the seeing conditions are better for planets in the early morning hours because a lot of things have cooled off. You don't have a lot of heat currents up in the day, or you're not looking across your neighbor's like really hot roof from being baked in the sun all day. So yeah, get outside early morning hours, do some observing of the planets, but they're all hanging out there right now. So go check it out. Now the sun. I've been observing the sun for the last week because I'm helping out with an event this weekend, which I'll actually talk about here shortly towards the end. The sun is going off right now. It is really kicking into gear. There's some nice sunspots. We had a really massive chain of sunspots like a week or two ago, which I think have moved their way around to the backside. But let me just skip through this because this is the same every month. But if you're an imager, or even if you like to sketch, which is a fantastic way to observe the sun, just sit down, relax, sketch it out, see what's there. But there's some amazing stuff going on the sun right now. Let me bring this up. So this is GONG, G-O-N-G. I just type in GONG, G-O-N-G, H alpha into Google, and it pops up. But you can see we've got some nice prominences, nothing major, but the filaments right now are crazy. There's some down here, there's some over here, there's a cool one over here, a really long one right here, and a really nice sunspot region. There was I think an X-class flare the other day, so the active regions and sunspot regions that have been hanging out on the sun recently have been very violent systems. So, which are very impressive in narrowband telescopes like H-alpha telescopes for the sun. Now, if you have a white light filter, I should stop here because I always get ahead of myself. Please do not observe the sun unless you have the proper filters on your telescope. Please understand that. If you don't know what you're doing, do more research, go to your club, or watch the previous videos that we had covering safe observing of the sun. But anyway, a good white light filter will show you these structures, these sunspots that look fantastic right now. But if you have an H-alpha telescope, like a Lunt or a Daystar or something like that, get out there and take a look at it because it's been very impressive with the details that have been visible. And if you want to come out this weekend, I will tell you where I'm going to be down in Tucson. Actually, they're out there today right now, but I will be there tomorrow as well. But we'll talk about that. If you are in the Tucson area, I will be down there tomorrow with some of my fancy solar stuff. Meteor showers. We actually are in the middle of one right now. The Eta Aquariids are currently on. We're just past the peak, but that doesn't mean you can't get something good. We're looking at about 10 to about 30 meteors per hour with this meteor shower. So if you're going out this weekend is still a very nice time to get out and do some dark sky observing. We do have a crescent moon, but that should set before midnight. So if you are looking to get out and watch the meteor shower and take some cool images of the Milky Way and those rising summer targets and Sagittarius and Scorpio and Lyra and all that fun stuff, it'll be a very, very good weekend to get out there because the moon will set early, and then that will give rise to that glorious summer Milky Way that's right around the corner for a lot of us. So, but you may catch some cool meteors going through the sky in some of your pictures because we are at the tail end of the Eta Aquariid meteor shower. So, just a heads up. Comets. I have not really observed the comets lately, but let's go over to cometchasing.skyhound.com. This gives you the best lineup of what's visible right now. So C2021-03 Pan-STARRS, if you're really far, nothing's visible. Well, it's just starting to become visible now. So this might be a fun comet. It looks like it's 8.5 magnitude, which is just out of reach naked eye. It's about a magnitude and a half beyond what the naked eye can catch. But a small telescope, you might be able to catch this one. So keep an eye out. C2021-03 Pan-STARRS. Keep an eye out for that one. Let's see, C2017 K2 Pan-STARRS. This is up in the morning. Looks like it's fairly well positioned because it's pretty high. It's in Ophiuchus, so in the early morning it would be a good time to catch it because there's no moon up there. It's about 10.3 magnitude, so any average backyard telescope, you should probably be able to catch it. Oh, it's going to Ophiuchus, but it's in Aquila. Okay, so it's in a good position right now if it's in Aquila in the early morning hours. So that might be an interesting one to actually image or get out while you're observing those planets in the early morning and try to catch it at 10.3 magnitude. If you have an 8-inch telescope or bigger, you should be able to find that, especially if you've got a camera attached to it. And then it looks like we dive into some of the southern hemisphere stuff. There is one in Gemini. The C2019 L3 Atlas is hanging out. But yeah, there's some comets up there. Nothing major at the moment. All these are telescopic objects, so you will need a telescope of some kind or some big binoculars. But yeah, try them out, see what you can find. But cometchasing.skyhound.com, this is where I go to find all the details of what comets are up, and then I'll go over to Sky Safari and kind of figure out where they are. But this is a very good website to use for observing comets, especially the ones that are current right there or up and coming. This is a good one to keep track of things that might be interesting, so you're not left in the dust when they do come up. So take a look at it. We might finish a little early today. I'm just letting you know because there wasn't any planets up. Not a lot with the comets. The sun's going crazy, so we might finish a little early today. I'm just letting you know it could be a short episode because we're already into deep sky. Now, I could have sat here forever plugging in the amount of stuff that is visible this time of year. And that's because it's galaxy season. The springtime right now is galaxies in the northern hemisphere, at least. A lot of the winter objects like the constellations of Orion, Gemini is going down. It's still hanging up there, but a lot of those wintertime constellations are gone, and with that, all the really cool nebulas and stuff that go with them are gone now. And we're looking, let me see, I don't have a CD later. Who has a CD anymore? Jesus. We'll use this Daystar adapter that I've got. Okay, so in the winter time, we're actually looking on edge of the galaxy, out away from the core, into the winter outer arms of the Milky Way. In the summertime, in the summertime, we're looking into the core of the Milky Way. So that's where we see the core, the Milky Way goes across the sky and all that fun stuff. So we're getting into that right now. However, where we are right now is the springtime. So we're actually looking out away from the plane of the galaxy. Instead of on edge, we're looking away out into Virgo, Leo, Ursa Major, Coma Berenices, all those galaxy rich regions. And that's what's up right now, are galaxies. And there are thousands of galaxies up there right now. And I didn't even have pictures to show enough of them, quite honestly. So this time of year is when you really want, if you're an imager, you probably want something that's about 1,000 to 1,200 millimeter focal length, depending on whatever your pixel size is, to get that image scale up. Or if you're a visual guy or woman, whatever, you're going to want something that's got some aperture on it. Probably about an 8-inch or bigger, preferably in some dark skies. If you have access to something bigger than 15-inch, good for you, because then you're able to get into the nitty-gritty stuff out there. So galaxy season is a long focal length game, unless you're doing big stuff like Markarian's Chain or the Virgo cluster. There is some Leo galaxy clusters up there too, but the objects are going to be small but abundant. Or you could do M81, M82, which we're going to talk about. So one of the nebulas, really the only nebula that's kind of hanging on right now, is up in Gemini. That's the Eskimo Nebula, about 5,000 light years away. It's a very small target, but it can be done in town. It looks great at any size telescope, but if you have a bigger telescope, it does a pretty nice job blowing it up. But if you're doing astrophotography, you have to approach this differently than other nebulas. It's short exposures. Narrowband can help, but you don't need super deep exposures to catch this one, because you're actually going to blow it out because it's a bright, dense region. I think these were only a few seconds long, like 30 seconds or something like that for this shot. One-shot color really does help with something like this, but you could use monochrome as well. But when doing planetary nebulas, and the Eskimo's kind of the last little hurrah planetary that's hanging up, there are some planetary nebulas that are up in the springtime, but they are very, very difficult, very faint ones. I haven't had a chance to really dig one out. There's one up in Leo that's very, very faint to see. But the Eskimo is one of those last little fleeting objects from the winter as we move on into the springtime, like galaxies. Now, one of my favorite galaxies is NGC 4565, the Needle. This is in Coma Berenices, and this particular region that this sits is in a very dense galaxy region, near the Coma cluster. And there's all kinds of interesting galaxies, but NGC 4565 is one of my favorites because it's huge and it's edge-on. Edge-on galaxies I think are really neat. I also like things that have structure to them. But this is in Coma Berenices, about 43 million light years away. I believe it's got something like 200 or something. It's got a lot of globular clusters in it, an immense collection of globular clusters. You can see this in moderate skies. It's not easy in a backyard telescope from a backyard. But in a dark sky, you need only like a 5 or 6 inch telescope to see it. But if you have a chance, if you're at a star party or you're going somewhere and you have a chance to put like a 16-inch or bigger on this thing, it's awesome. And then if you ever have a chance to put a 30-inch on it, it's amazing, because it is a huge galaxy. Takes up a massive amount of space in the field of view of a telescope. Imaging wise, you can do it from your backyard. It's not tremendously difficult. Dark skies do help, but there's no real advantage of using any kind of narrow band on this. There's not really any heavy H2 regions like some of the other galaxies we're going to talk about. But this is one of my favorite ones, and it's easily visible right as the sun goes down, especially if you're out in one of those dark sky locations. And it's a fantastic object from a dark sky in nearly any size telescope. Now, another one that's pretty cool right now is up in Ursa Major. This is M101, about 21 million light years away. This one is kind of tricky. A, it's quite large in diameter, and B, it is very diffuse. It is not well defined. The outer arms, like I said, do get fairly diffuse and can be kind of hard to see in smaller telescopes. You might be able to detect it from your backyard, maybe the glowing core of it, from dark skies, and probably a 5 or 6 inch telescope is doable. You'll start to see some of the extension in there. But once you really kind of need like a 12 inch personally, from my experience, to start getting the detail inside of the arms, especially the outer arms that are a lot more faint and diffuse. But any larger aperture than that is just a major plus, because you'll just be able to get more and more detail. And you start getting the H2 regions, which are these little bundles of stars, these star-forming regions that are kind of hanging out in there. Now, if you're imaging it, you can do it from the backyard. One-shot color does really nice with one of these. You can do, you can approach it any way you like. But it can be a little tricky, especially if you're in a backyard scenario, because a lot of times when you're shooting in a backyard, you're going to get gradients due to the light pollution. And you can use a light pollution filter like an Optolong L Pro or an Astronomics CLS filter or Chroma Low Glow, which is what I use. I also use the Optolong, which they all do pretty much equal jobs. That can help really mitigate some of the light pollution, but you still get gradients in your image when you're processing, and that can be very difficult to handle well when you have an object like this, because unlike other galaxies, which are very well defined, this one, because it has those really diffuse and nebulous outer arms, when you're dealing with gradients in astrophotography, that can be difficult to process out effectively without hurting the arms. So this one would be easier to do from a dark sky site, or a little darker sky than what you probably have in your backyard. And then if you do have a narrowband capable system, like if you're using a monochrome camera, do put the hydrogen alpha filter in there if you've got one, because it'll help you pull out the pink reddish H2 regions that are hanging out in the outer arms there. So give it a go. That is M101, a fantastic galaxy to see right now, and a little bit more challenging than I think people realize. Now, I don't know what happened to the slide here, but this is M51, the Whirlpool Galaxy. I'm just going to do this from memory because I don't remember why the slide isn't there, but about 34 million light years away. It's at the tail end of Ursa Major. I think it's technically in Coma Berenices, I think. But anyway, this one is getting very well positioned right now. It's still rising, so if you're imaging it, you have almost the entire night to actually shoot this. But M51, or the Whirlpool Galaxy, is probably one of my favorite galaxies of the year because it's so much structure. It's easy to see, but photographically, if you can get the bridge and this faint nebulosity and dust that comes off of the interacting galaxy here, well done. And in dark skies, it should be no problem. But M51 is a fantastic galaxy to see. If you're in a dark sky site, it's probably one of the first ones I would take if you're a beginner and you're just going out with like your 6 or 8 inch telescope for the first time. This is kind of one of those galaxies that is just kind of a showstopper because it looks like a galaxy. And that's what's really cool about it, is it's a face-on spiral. It's an interacting galaxy, but it has so much structure in it that it looks like a picture. So it's really cool to see and show your friends. And that would be a great one to go after. It never gets old. And if you have a chance to get a big telescope on it, it just gets even better. So, but that's M51, the Whirlpool Galaxy right there. Definitely worth going out and checking out, because we are prime time season for it now. I did mention earlier that there wasn't many planetary nebulas up. Well, there is one really good one that's not too difficult, and it has a companion as well. This is M97 and M108. This is Ursa Major, up in Ursa Major, the Big Dipper. It's kind of at the bottom portion of the bowl of the Big Dipper. M97, the Planetary, which is this guy right here. I would hope you know which one's the Planetary and which one's the Galaxy. Most galaxies are not like neon blue. But M97, or the Owl Nebula, is about 2,800 light years away, and then M108 is 26 million light years away, so a little further apart from each other. If we get the dust on the right side, the opposite, how well it is. Sorry, David. If we get the dust on the right side, the opposite of the smaller galaxy, how well is it? I don't know what question you're trying to ask there. I'm sorry. So M97, M108. M97 is a little bit more challenging than most people think it is, personally. You need a little bit more aperture visually to see it than I think you would normally need for something like the Ring Nebula or the Eskimo. Because M97 is a little bigger, it's a little bit more diffuse, it's a little harder to get. But if you're going to try it, definitely try a UHC filter or an oxygen 3 filter. Big help on it. Once you get to about a 12-inch telescope, you can start to see it more. And then you really need something like a 15 or 16-inch to really start to get more of the detail in the eyes of that nebula. So it actually looks like an owl. I know in my 28-inch scope, even from a moderate sky, you can see the structure in the eyes and stuff like that. So if you're out this weekend at this event I'm going to tell you about, come by and we'll show it to you. M108 has some pretty neat structure in it visually. Probably need about a 12-inch telescope. 12-inch is really kind of the sweet spot for galaxies. It just gets you a good amount of dig into the nighttime sky at that point to where you can start to resolve some of that structure. So if you're really serious about galaxies, I would recommend looking at something like an 11 or 12-inch or bigger telescope to start. A 10 is not bad, but there is a noticeable difference between 10 and 12 when it comes to galaxies. Don't know why, it just gets you over the line a little bit. Now, from home or in your backyard, you can actually do narrowband imaging for M97. It's a nebula. O3 H alpha filters are very helpful with that. So you can do narrowband. For M108, there's not a lot helping you. You just kind of have to go after it and go with it. So, but that's M108 and M97, kind of a cool 2-for-1 if you've got a wide enough field there to catch it. M106. I really like M106 because of the story behind M106. This is not in Canis Major. This is in Ursa Major. So sorry about that typo. Distance about 25 million light years away. This is easy in a moderate sized telescope. Moderate, I usually say 8 to 12 inches, what I would consider moderate. You can see this one in good skies. You can actually start to see some of the spiral structure of it, which is kind of neat. You can do imaging from in town. Obviously dark skies are going to help. But the big thing on this one is the red spiral arms from the black hole in the middle of it it's whipping up this material really quickly in the galaxy. And it has these cool arms that really come out in hydrogen alpha. So if you have a narrowband capable system, give it a go. But it's got really nice structure inside of the galaxy. This was taken with our 6-inch Esprit, which is 1,000 millimeters. About 1.4 arc seconds per pixel is what I was imaging with there. This will be a tricky one if you're new to processing, to be able to process the inner core without blowing out the outer. So you kind of want to know how to process a bright central core, but that's how you get all these cool, dark, molting details inside of there. It's really quite a fantastic galaxy. But here's those arms I was telling you about, these red spiral arms that are being whipped up by the black hole in the middle of the galaxy there. If you have a monochrome camera and you are imaging, try to put some H alpha data, like an hour, maybe longer, whatever you want to do to pop that detail out. It's definitely worth putting some narrowband time on M106 to pop out that detail. It really does a nice thing. Now, for those who have smaller telescopes, shorter focal lengths, because a lot of these galaxies do best by longer focal length with more resolution. There's M81 and M82 in Ursa Major, 12 million light years away. These are easy pair of galaxies, both visual and astrophotography wise, to catch. They sit next to each other. A lot of times you're going to get both of them in the same field of view. From a backyard, you can see both of them in probably a 6-inch telescope. You'll just see the glowing core of M81, which is the spiral. And then you will get the cigar shape of M82, the cigar galaxy, next door. You can see them in a moderate backyard with a decent little telescope. But in dark skies and bigger aperture, they really become, you see more structure. Astrophotography wise, these are easy to do from in town. An average light pollution filter in your optical system would be perfectly acceptable for that. If you want to get more advanced and go to dark skies, that's where you're going to start getting the integrated flux nebula, which is all this wispy cirrus-like nebulosity that whips around the field there. And this particular region, it's immense. But modern cameras make it very, very easy to see this. Like if you have a ZWO 2600 or 6200 or maybe a 533, especially the new monochrome version, it's easy to pull this stuff out because of how sensitive and how clean some of these modern sensors are, and also whatever the other company's equivalents are. But anything that is using those modern sensors, the 533, the 571, and the 455 sensors, you will pull integrated flux nebula up in more places than you thought it was. And it's really cool, especially if you're in a dark sky site that you're doing 3 to 5 minute subs, you will get that with these modern cameras. Now, real quick here, because I don't know if I have a slide. I don't have a slide. If you have a monochrome camera, make sure you do have some H-alpha data. That's really going to be able to help pop out this irregularity in M82. This really weird structural portion in the red right here in M82. H-alpha is really going to help pop that detail out quite a bit. So do your color data. Or if you're shooting one-shot color, maybe try to process some of the reds out in this particular region using like selective color in Photoshop, or I'm sure PixInsight has some variation, but try to pop this red structure out on M82. It's definitely worth it. And here's the integrated flux nebula and just the luminance. A good luminance channel, if you're doing monochrome, the key to really getting some nice structure out of the integrated flux nebula is a very clean luminance channel. You might have to get crafty so you don't blow out the two galaxies. You have to process those well and carefully, but all that's floating up in there. And if you have a modern camera, it's very easy to get. If you have an older camera, you can still do it, but it's probably going to take a lot more exposure time. But that's M81, M82. And the integrated flux nebula. That's almost impossible to see visually, but good luck. Next up is the Leo triplet. Another 3-for-1. These actually vary in distances, so it's not 12 million. These are in Leo. These are doable from a backyard, but you're only going to get 2 of them most likely, which is going to be M65 and M66. These are the brightest 2 in the trio. NGC 3628 is going to be a lot fainter, and it can be rather difficult even under moderate skies. Darker locations are obviously going to make that a lot easier, but 3628 is a bit fainter than the other 2 companions there. Astrophotography wise, you'll get all 3. It's not difficult to do. But the big challenge for the trio here, as far as astrophotography goes, is 3628 has a very, very long tail that follows it, which is very, very faint. And in dark sky locations with a really good luminance channel, you can pull that out. But if you're going to be shooting from the backyard, it might be very difficult to impossible to get it. You might get a little bit of it flowing out of there, but it's very difficult to get a very nice. I have seen very few images that do a good image of that structure. So good luck with that. But that's the Leo triplet there. Now, there's a couple other things I want to bring up, and I ran out. I didn't put them in the slides, so I'm just going to pull them up. Now, another cool thing that's coming up right now is the globular clusters. Now, this is an old picture, and it's not there anymore. But M3, now this was my shot with Comet Leonard and M3, I think, earlier this year. But M3 is a fantastic globular cluster that's actually coming up right now. It's easily visible. It looks great in small telescopes, and especially in a dark sky site, it just pops. But M3 is a fantastic globular cluster that is just coming into the sky. It's kind of the first hurrah of, globular cluster season coming up. But this is a good one to catch. You can get it in about a 6 to 8 inch telescope. There is no comet next to it anymore, so I don't have just an image of M3 at the moment. But this is about 33,000 light years away, about 174 light years in diameter. And this is a great one to do for outreach programs because globular clusters are easy to see. They look like a pile of sugar. And it's fun for people to see that big collection of stars. Astrophotography wise, they're very easy forgiving targets. Light pollution's not a big deal. It doesn't take long exposures to get them. I mean, long-ish, but you don't need some real deep luminance image to really get structure out of a globular cluster. So give that a go, M3, and of course the larger M13, which we'll probably talk about more next month. But that is just starting to rise into the nighttime sky as well. So there's a bunch of cool stuff that's starting to come up right now. And there's a bunch of galaxies I didn't even get to cover because there's so many of them out there. But try M104. The Sombrero Galaxy is excellent. The Black Eye Galaxy, which I think is M64, is very cool. Especially if you have a decent sized telescope, you can actually see why it's called the Black Eye Galaxy. There's so many galaxies up there right now that just pull up a chart and go explore and check it out because there's all kinds of cool things up there to see. But with that being said, that's kind of the end of my webcast for this week. If you like what you see here, please go ahead and subscribe. Leave a like on a video. And next week, or actually real quick, if you are in Tucson, Arizona, I will be heading down actually right after this. I'm heading down for Stars Over Sabino Canyon, which is I'm hoping it's going to be an annual event, but this is put on by the University of Arizona Mount Lemmon Sky Center. The event started yesterday. They're probably out there right now observing the sun with solar telescopes. This is at the Sabino Canyon Visitor Center at the north side of town. I think it's free to attend, but I think there's some parking fee. I'm not sure exactly. But we will be there tonight. I will have my 28-inch telescope there. If you're in town and you want to stop by and say hi, we'll have like 8 or 10 telescopes out there. We have meteorites on hand. I'll have my 28 out along with several other telescopes for observing the sky. Then tomorrow, we'll have solar telescopes out, which I think starts at 8 o'clock. There's nature hikes in the early morning. You can go to Mount Lemmon Sky Center's website to see the whole schedule of what's going on. But we have all kinds of stuff going on. But there'll be stargazing tonight, tomorrow night at the Sabino Canyon Visitor Center in Tucson. Come on out and hang out with us. Next week, we're talking the SynScan Pro app. This is our Skywatcher app that controls all of our Wi-Fi go-to systems. We're going to dig into the nitty gritty of that and all the different ways you can use it. So definitely join us next week. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, I will dig through them real quick. I don't think there's a lot in here. About M51, getting dust clouds on the left side is well done. So on the right side, if you get really nice dust clouds around M51 at all, good job. We got an awesome, oh wow, at our public outreach last night with M3 and our 20-inch obsession. Yeah, 20-inch on M3 is not a bad way to go about observing a globular cluster. Let's see. What do you think about H alpha filters for straight observing through a 16-inch or any light pollution filters for observation? I think they may dim the image too much. If you have a 16-inch telescope, light pollution filters are going to be fine. You know, like a standard light pollution filter, a UHC filter, O3, H beta, all those kind of standard collection stuff is going to be actually perfectly fine for a 16-inch telescope. An H alpha filter, however, is a very, very narrow band filter. It's also really far in the red. So we don't typically use H alpha filters visually because we can't see it. Now, an H beta filter will show you the exact same details as H alpha, but it's in the blue-green side of the spectrum, which is easier for our eye to see and detect that particular wavelength. So if you want to use an H alpha filter visually on your Dob or whatever, that's not going to work. You need an H beta filter, but it shows you the same structures because it's hydrogen. The only time you would use H alpha for observing is with a night vision system. And I would love to do a humongous in-depth episode about observing with night vision. And I have a friend of mine who's going to loan me their night vision system for a few weeks. I should have it next week. And I'm hoping once I'm done having the experience with that, I'll be able to do an episode for you guys on observing with night vision. And H alpha filters can be used with that. I still don't see the Sky Wizard on the Google Store. I think they're just about to release it. They were working on a couple little things. So here's the thing with that. The reason it got delayed is because when you use an Android system and you need to edit any of the fields, the keyboard pops up, but the keyboard is white, which totally defeats the purpose of having red night vision screens. So what our programmer had to do is create his own keyboard. So when you actually go and type in your stuff and you want to keep the night vision, it is still red. So we're trying to make sure that's still working. It is available on the Apple system, though. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you very much. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. If you're in Tucson, come out to Sabino Canyon and say hi. Do some observing with us. Stare at the sun safely. But yeah, come on out, and we will talk to you guys very soon. Stay safe, everyone, and have a great weekend. Take care. Bye.